Welcome to Wrapping Things Up, the podcast where we tie up the loose ends on all things packaging, so you walk away with solutions. Coming up on today's episode. Hey guys, welcome back to the Wrapping Things Up podcast. My name is Meredith Denning, and today I am here with our very own Director of Sales, Mr. Nick Knapp. How are you doing today, Nick?
I'm doing great.
You're doing good? Very excited to have you today. Super pumped about our topic of conversation. But I would love for you to give us a little bit of your background. How did you get into the packaging industry? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for asking. I do have a technical background, educational background in chemistry. So technical facets, hard sciences were always, fascinating to me.
Cool.
I was a research and development chemist for a while, then moved on to a company that used inks for printing, marking, and coding technologies. So still a chemist there, but into the world of an element of packaging, essentially. Worked a little bit as an engineer there, up into product management, dipping my toes into the commercial side, and then finally they said, hey, pal, you should try out sales. So that's where I started.
That's awesome. Well, today we're going to be talking a little bit about proofing your production line, and just kind of want to tap into your brain and get some expertise on that. But before we kind of dive into the nitty gritty, I would love to start with a little fun question. And this is something that it affects me all the time. Is there a product you secretly buy just because you like the packaging? And what is it?
Ooh.
Or even further, is there a product that you buy because you love like the brand or the messaging that they do?
Two things come to mind initially. I don't know if you're aware of those. You can get them at a couple of fast food chains or something. They're like these little ketchup packets that are a tray of ketchup, but also you can peel it back or you can tear off the top and squeeze it.
Yeah.
I think it's called like dip and squeeze or something.
Yes,
so
I do know what that is.
I got to be part of the team that helped with the R&D of that particular package. Yeah. And they are, it's cool. Totally a wild and kind of just a cool, I kind of know how that ketchup is made is a way to say it, I guess. And the utility that provides people. I mean, I love it. I've got a 3-year-old daughter and she's just like, I want to dip it. I want to squeeze it. She gets to be in total control of her ketchup.
It's one of those things where you don't realize how genius it is until it's in front of you. Like I remember the first time I saw that was at Culver's and I was like, what?
Yeah.
This is absolutely incredible.
And it is, like you mentioned, it is cool. But again, I understand how many iterations of design and the challenges of, using a laser to score this notch so it was easy enough for you to tear or, little things like that.
Very interesting.
The other thing that does come to mind is I've been in packaging long enough to get the opportunity to work closely with some companies or customers or whatever that have, I'll just say, a mission or something like that that's pretty cool, like some NGOs or nonprofits or something like that, where at Viking we have a couple of those, and it's really fun to be able to try to solve those problems while also making an impact on other things. I mean, there are other companies out there that do a lot for, the things that the machines and the packaging that they have designed that they use, like have, geared towards Meals on Wheels and like these really cool, impactful programs. And so I always find that a nice and interesting intersection.
That's awesome. I love that. I always think of, maybe this is the Gen Z in me, but I know, like when I think of coffee right away, if the packaging of a coffee product is seamless and detailed, I know the product is going to be fantastic, and it never fails.
Know it.
Yes, I know it every single time. Or if you go to have you ever done this where like you look up a coffee shop and depending on like the vibe or of the interior, like the design of the interior and how the seating is, if the coffee is going to be good. Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, that's the brand. You're like,
that's what I'm saying.
This place looks dirty. I don't know what the health code looks like there, so I'm out on the coffee. But no, this looks like a cool, chill place. I bet they've got an amazing, light roast.
100%. I completely agree with that.
I think it's called branding.
Yeah, I would know a lot about that. Well, thank you for that. I think that's really interesting, and I just wanted to pick your brain on it. But going straight into it, we're going to be talking about future proofing. You and I have talked about it a little bit here and there. And it's one of those terms that seems to kind of get tossed around a little bit. Would you mind defining that for us? And how do you discuss future proofing with prospects and customers?
Yeah. The way I think about it and the way I want my teams to think about it is very similar to any other aspect of a customer's production line. What I mean by that is a customer may or may not care about future-proofing their line, but it's not wise for us to make any assumptions about what they may or may not care about.
Sure.
Why I offer that preamble is because it's important from our standpoint to be consultative with the customer, to really help them understand as many aspects as we can bring to them in terms of our experience, what may end up impacting their production line. And that means may end up impacting them for this particular project, or also how this particular project may impact their line moving forward sort of into that future state. So first finding out whether or not that's something that's important to the customer, because we'll talk to customers, and I'm positive that they, we have customers for other aspects that talk about their production lines, and they're really looking for someone to say to them, this works for you today. Have you considered X? Have you considered Y? Because we see that in the future, things might change, or your business might change, or does it need to be more flexible than this in case you guys need the flexibility to pivot? And just being able to tee that up in terms of a talking point with the customer, we find not only gets and earns us a lot of credibility, but also tends to be pretty appreciated, and in some cases can really help us peek around corners and sort of get in front of some issues on the customer's behalf.
Yeah. Do you feel like most customers that maybe you've worked with personally or our team has worked with personally, that they are thinking future-wise, or do you feel like it's something that they're thinking, I want the here and now, I want an immediate answer, and you need to provide that, hey, but here's the what ifs or the possibilities of what could come? Great
question. Most of the customers are very interested in what it means for the future of their business. Because most of these customers, or especially decision makers, that is really what their job is, to be more strategic in terms of we have a product to get out the door today, and we need to have that packaged in a particular way, et cetera. But also, what is the return on investment here? What is the total cost of ownership? What does it look like after that equipment has paid itself off in terms of an asset on our production floor? They are extremely interested in it, and I think that it's a wonderful topic for today because more and more customers are making their purchasing decisions based off of what it means for their ability in the future, and that could go a few different ways.
Yeah. When you're walking customers through upgrades or possible upgrades, what helps them see the long-term value versus the short-term expenses?
Again, walking through the customer's end goals as they see them is the best place to start. The reason I say that is because if we just were to approach a customer and say, what is it you're trying to accomplish here? That's perfectly fine. We want to have higher level of outlook for the customers and saying, let's back into what you'd like to achieve in the future. Maybe you need to get this product out the door today, tomorrow, this week, this month, what have you, but that hasn't mentioned anything, or that doesn't talk about at all your longer term sustainability goals or profitability goals, which might need to be more flexible or reduce labor or reduce maintenance or downtime, et cetera.
Do you ever find that future-proofing helps simplify buying decisions rather than complicating them, or not at all?
No, absolutely. On the whole, it does simplify things. Helping a customer look to a future state and be more considerate about their purchasing decisions, while may incur or introduce some additional initial questions, tends to really simplify things in the long term. And we have a lot of customers and partners we work with who, in exploring those longer term goals, helps them arrive at a decision much sooner.
Yeah, that's true. With future proofing, looking ahead, as we've been talking about, is very important and it's very strategic. What kind of things signal that it's time to start looking ahead? And maybe what are some of the red flags that come up that tell someone that a line is outdated?
It's never the exact same, but there are a lot of different buckets. Some of those buckets can be a customer needs to have higher throughput, and maybe that's higher throughput speed in the same amount of floor space or real estate on their production floor, because space is always at a premium, or usually. It also might mean they need higher level of throughput at the same speed, so redundancy or additional, but the same lines. Two lines, separate lines doing the same thing. Double the throughput in that instance. But that's not always it. Earning contracts and getting more product out the door, obviously making more money from a top line standpoint for our customers or anyone, I guess, is paramount, right? But also the bottom line is impacted by a lot of other things. Cutting costs, reducing maintenance, parts, things like that are very, very important. So, for example, if you have a machine that is going as fast as it needs to reach your production goals as a company, that's great. But you might find yourself in a situation where you need to upgrade because that production line, while it goes fast enough, it breaks down too often. Or when it breaks down, it's really complex or complicated to fix. So your maintenance team or your engineering team requires too much downtime. And it doesn't matter how fast the machine can go if it's not going at all, right?
Yeah.
So in those instances, customers and companies tend to look for robust solutions that can last for a long time, solutions that require fewer replacement parts or have fewer wear parts generally. So usually more higher end design for the machines themselves, tend to have, again, fewer wear parts, fewer moving parts, et cetera. And then again, what are the processes like when the machine needs to go down? How complicated is it to replace these parts? And something that's really, really important, and this makes a decision for a lot of companies, is what is the service and support like from a company like Viking Maskek when the machine is down for a preventative maintenance or something like that. All of those things, and it's not the same for each customer, can lead to and maybe it's more than one of those things, can lead to a customer saying, we need to upgrade, we need to replace for any number of those reasons.
There's definitely plenty of reasons why customers might choose to delay equipment and automation decisions. But I think with that comes a lot of risks. What, in your opinion, is the real cost of doing nothing?
Yeah, great question. We have to, any customer, when they make any of these decisions, packaging lines, what building to buy, what contracts to take on, et cetera, they should be weighing their options, always weighing their options against a do-nothing scenario. We try really hard to help customers understand the cost of doing nothing as it relates to the typically higher upfront capital cost, specifically with Viking or with anyone else, around doing something. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah.
What it means is it may take X number of dollars to get something to upgrade your line or to add to your automation line or something like that today, or I'll stick with upgrade your machine. But doing nothing, you may be dumping more maintenance costs into it. You might incur higher labor costs. So it really comes down to not only should we do something today, but what should we do and whom should we do it with and when.
Just out of curiosity, do you have an example or a story of a customer that waited too long and it actually made future upgrades harder or more expensive, like in real life?
Absolutely. Some horror stories, of course. I think that one particular customer who was trying to frankly understand whether they needed to buy a new build, expand into a larger space or not. They made the decision not to and to kind of just continue with the same equipment that they have today, and it was sort of working just fine. They decided essentially, we know we need to do something. We really appreciate, what you and the team have been able to show us, but for any number of reasons, we've reprioritized and we're going to wait a little bit. Sure enough, a handful of months later, they call back and say, hey, we didn't decide to expand, but we have these new contracts we're trying to go after right now. What can you get us and when? And at that point, the lead times were it was going to be really difficult to meet lead times.
Yeah.
The customer they hadn't made the decision to move into the new space, so this space that they needed in order to fit the production and automation equipment that they required was going to require a lot of design changes and iterations on what would normally have been more of a standard solution.
Yeah.
So the cost was 2.4 or 2.6 times what it would have been originally had they decided to not deprioritize and look a little bit more toward the future and understanding more about themselves in terms of what they really wanted to go after.
Yeah.
And those are really difficult conversations sometimes because as a partner, you really want to, the goal is never to kind of say, well, hey, we kind of talked about this,
Right.
It really is a matter of continuing to lead with empathy rather, and to continue to try to work the problem that's in front of you. But it can make those conversations really tough because this would have been so much cheaper, so much easier, had we been able to get you to do this earlier or the first time.
No, that's good. I think that's a good example. I would love to explore some scenarios. So let's say a manufacturer knows it's time to upgrade. What factors might they consider when choosing between updating the current equipment or buying brand new equipment?
Yes. They're gonna need to determine, work backwards from what they'd like to accomplish.
Okay.
So do they need to increase the throughput of legacy products because they've got new contracts? Are they a firm that has a lot of research and development? So they're doing promotional products or co-manufacturing, so they have any number of products under the sun that might be coming through the door at any point in time, which would mean they need maybe they need to upgrade machines due to they need to do for flexibility. It can do different formats on the same line, different machines.
Yeah.
There's also a cost to refurbishing that older equipment, and the return becomes, or the improvement on that machine becomes asymptotic. That is, you really can take an old machine and refurbish it back to more of its original form. But if that original form is sort of redlining or maxing out, then that helps you understand that you really should be upgrading to new equipment.
Yeah.
Additionally, older lines and machines are going to be limited on their technology. What do I mean by that? The electronics in newer machines are not only updated in and of themselves, but they're much more likely to be compatible with other and ancillary equipment. That is, they can speak and work with and integrate with other pieces of packaging machinery much more readily, much better. So for a customer who's looking to phase their automation approach, it's usually not a great idea to just stick with or keep refurbishing old stuff, because when you add, or when you want to add, vision, inspection, check weighing, primary to secondary to tertiary packaging, things like that. You don't want to end up putting, bald tires on your Ferrari or something like that. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
So
that's a good example. You had mentioned earlier about equipment being redundant and flexible. Can you explain that a little bit further, what you mean by that when it comes to equipment redundancy and flexibility?
It's all flexibility that sort of, the way I think about it, breaks down into multiple areas. So one customer or one company may need to be flexible in terms of their throughput. So they want redundant lines using, again, multiple lines producing the same thing. But if for any number of reasons, maybe it's their cleaning procedure, maybe it's their unskilled labor force when it comes to maintenance and operation of those lines, causing downtime on one of the lines, if you have a second duplicate line, now you're never technically fully out of production.
Right.
So you've really added, it's risk mitigation at the end from that standpoint. That's the redundancy piece. More so what I mean in terms of flexibility is more along the co-manufacturer or co-packing space, where these companies need ultimate flexibility and quick flexibility, not only inside their plant in terms of switching from one product format to the next, one product type to the next on the same lines. They need to be able to do that and do it very quickly. But also their go-to-market strategy is that they want to go shop for these contracts to package these things based on their capabilities to do that internally. So, for example, if you're a big box store and you need 900 pallets of Meredith's brand new delicious cookies.
Of course.
Yeah, right. Well, you are looking for somebody to package that very quickly, because for Meredith to scale up all on her own, you're great at making your cookies. You're not so great yet at packaging your own cookies and the logistics around that. So you might shop that out to co-packaging manufacturers or co-manufacturers who've packaged cookies very, very similar to yours, maybe not as delicious, in the past, and they can meet the demand of that big box store much more readily. So those co-manufacturers are out in the marketplace shopping for those contracts all the time. And for them to be able to send their sales force into the field and say, we can do powders, we can do free flow products, non-free flow products, we can do dry snacks, I can do sticky feta cheese, I can do whatever it might be. Well, if you're somebody like a big box store and or you're somebody like Meredith, that's really attractive to have a partner that has that flexibility. To earn that flexibility, you've got to invest in the equipment that has that flexibility.
Yeah. No, that's good. That kind of leads me a little into integration challenges and a question about that. Integration challenges are pretty common, I would say. How can manufacturers set themselves up for success when multiple OEMs are involved?
The
big question.
It's huge. It honestly is huge. selfishly, I push our teams at Viking to have a full understanding of this and to highlight it with our customers. And here's why. There are any number of OEMs, whatever they're making, checkwares to baggers to scales to printers to conveyors, et cetera, right? All of them have their own protocols, processes, obviously tech stack, technology, hard tech, et cetera. They're not all made right out of the box to plug and play. You know, it's not always that simple. And some are better than others, and they're used to, you know, it's a multi-headed scale is used to being set over a bagger. Those things are true, but there's still real and impactful details that have to be sorted between those two companies. It's really key as someone who's shopping for those types of technologies to understand the risk of choosing partners that A, don't have good experience in executing that level of complex integration.
Okay.
And B, shopping for partners who, in some cases, offer those technologies as a turnkey solution. Here's what that means to our customers or to anybody with these production lines. If you spend a boatload of money on a particular bagger and a boatload of money on a scale, for example. What you don't want to, and you're so excited to get this stuff, and you wait a little, several weeks for this stuff to be delivered to you, and the technicians from both companies are there, and they're setting this up on your floor, and you've staked your job and your bonus on this with your boss. You went to battle for what needed to be upgraded on instead of just refurbished. The last thing you want is to miss a go-live production date because there's some small integration error or just a couple of wires that haven't been connected or landed properly yet. And to go to these partners and say, hey, I've got to get this thing up and going. This is what we talked about this whole time. The project manager and I have been working very close together to get this online in time. And to have both of those companies sort of pointing fingers at each other is extremely frustrating for a customer. It is an absolute nightmare scenario. Right. So it's really, really important to know that is a real possibility. And when making any of these decisions on whom to partner with for these types of solutions and purchases, et cetera, to frankly call that out and say, hey, I'm considering going with you, Company A, or you, Company B, or you, Viking Maskek, et cetera. What is your process for when those conflicts arise? And how can we make sure that they don't impact my production line? I want to make sure that I'm being taken care of because a production manager, they don't know how to make this stuff work, or they would just do it, right? We don't want anyone's to hold customers' production line hostage.
That seems very much like a customer experience focus from your point of view, which obviously is very important. So I feel like that would only be helpful to the customer. For companies that are getting started in automation, what should be one of their first steps that they take?
One of the first things they should do is, again, try their best to understand what they'd like to accomplish, because that's what, specifically for us, that's where we're going to start, like I mentioned. Yeah. But I will say that the guidance that they should hopefully receive is one of a few different paths they can take. So it's important to understand how much upfront capital they are willing to spend, because we have customers that the need is only to do one portion of the line. So they'll do a phased approach. They'll say, let's automate the very first piece of this line, and then we can come back after we've got some return on that investment to dump the money back in and continue further down the line. We have other companies who may win a large contract, and because of the throughput they need or that redundancy or that flexibility that we talked about, will say, no, our investors or our company has decided to invest and do all of this at once. And again, we're happy to be that partner for them or help them understand, model that out for them, what that looks like. But it could be a phased approach. It could be just understanding that they need to automate one piece for now, and that's really all that their goals are requiring at this time. But understanding that and then finding the best partners who's willing to be consultative and walk through those options. Yeah. That is, partnerships, especially in this industry, are paramount. And again, having anyone who's willing to walk through those things and help you prioritize and help ask difficult questions and challenge, as any good partnership would be, each other is pretty important.
Yeah, that's good. Kind of switching gears a little bit, I would love to talk about trends and what you think is ahead for the packaging industry. As our sales director, you interact with manufacturers searching for solutions and maybe even the next big thing, whatever that is or means. What industry trends would you consider being central to packaging decisions right now?
Certainly there's a consolidation in a lot of market verticals that we work in specifically. That's the first thing that jumps out to me. That means the need for flexibility and to do, multiple formats, multiple film types, multiple product types, et cetera. Again, that co-manufacturing space that we talked about a few times is absolutely booming right now, and we're only seeing an increase there. But even within those specific cases or instances, there are a few underlying themes. One is purchasing equipment that is a little bit more future-proof in that it is, it's made well, it's good quality steel, the welds are high quality, the electronics are, whether it's Allen Bradley is an example of a high-end controls set, panel and set. Those are things that customers seek out because it does result in them getting a machine that is a little bit more set it and forget it, which is huge. It brings me to my next point of the workforce for operators and maintenance at our customers is a massive issue for all of them. It doesn't matter whether they're packaging, COVID test kits or Cheetos or Meredith's cookies, whatever it is. That level of either unskilled labor or over-skilled labor in a lot of cases results in customers needing machines that are just touched less. I need something that my operators don't need to touch. That they can scan a barcode on the wall, it populates all the information, the recipes, et cetera. The adjustments are automatic. Things like that are extremely attractive to customers, and frankly, they're willing to pay for them. The last thing I'll mention is really the service and support when customers make the choice to try to offload as much of that responsibility on their trusted partners. If you, whomever, the understood you, can present a customer with an option that addresses those items, they're going to be more attracted each time.
You kind of touched a little bit on labor challenges specifically, which leads me perfectly into my next question. What automation trends are showing up to reduce operator interaction or otherwise alleviate labor gaps?
Exactly. Yep. Machines that have automatic changeovers is key. Again, I said the ability to populate recipes, network things. So there are solutions that network completely into the plant's, the production manager's office upstairs, and he is driving everything from his desk on the production floor. Or he can monitor the status of uptime and OEE, which is something he's likely getting a bonus on, so you know that he's willing to make an investment in a lot of those cases. Does this system tie to our ERP system so that there are other functions within our warehouse and things like that that automatically talk to each other, again, to remove the need in a lot of cases of operator interaction, to remove the risk of errors and data entry and things like that. Those are all things that customers are willing to pay for because they do see the return on investment, especially if it's in a situation where you're further automating not just the physical chips into a bag or pretzels or cookies, et cetera, but you're further automating the information as well.
That's good. Well, we have one last question. So to wrap things up nicely, as we always do at the end of each episode, how do we help customers balance priorities like speed, flexibility, and simplicity without overcomplicating their operations?
The key is to be able to consider all of these things, but to relay their importance through a series of thoughtful questions to the customer. It doesn't do us or most companies any good to run to the customer and say, this is what you need to have. But to get them, especially, we're fortunate at Viking Mesa because we've such a wide breadth of offerings and solutions. We have a lot to pull from to really tailor it to what those customers like, input the answers from those questions and really try to dial in on what might fit the customer best. But not settling there in terms of leaving it only up to the customer, helping partner with them and be consultative through that question process and not being afraid to sort of peek around corners for the customer or on their behalf, and frankly be ready to answer the questions on from the customer on why we're asking those questions,
Right.
not just, hey, do you want to do multiple formats? The customer might have an answer to that, or they also may have never thought about it before. And they might want to say, well, why is it important to have an automatic changeover? Why is it important to be able to do multiple formats? Why is it that you think you might want to quote us 2 separate lines? They're pretty much the same thing, right? And it's like, well, right, absolutely. Here are the advantages to that. Here's the return on that investment. If you upgrade this machine, you can use it longer. You're not redlining it so that your parts last longer. And you can go after that contract that says you need to do 2x more, because we don't want customers in a situation where they pay this money for this beautiful new production line, and then when they get it 6 months later, they've already outgrown it. That can be a really difficult conversation as well.
Yeah. Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely.
This was so much fun. How can our listeners find you or connect with you?
Nick Knapp at vikingmasek.com.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Shout out. Are you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Nick Knapp, LinkedIn, extremely handsome.
Yep, as you can all see on YouTube specifically, not on Spotify or Apple Music
Sounds
or Apple
handsome.
Podcasts. Again, thank you so much for being here. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode today. Don't forget to subscribe to Wrapping Things Up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, so that you never miss out on an episode. You can also find us on LinkedIn, or you can go check out our newer website. It's been a couple of months now, but she's pretty nice and new, at vikingmasek.com for more information. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Wrapping Things Up. Make sure you follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Stay up to date by checking out Viking Masek on social media. Thanks for watching.